would you cast as an MCU Uncle Ben? Because, you know, he's got to be hot enough to be banging Marissa Tomei. I have tossed and turned over this. Who is Uncle Ben? Is it Brad Pitt? Who is Uncle Ben?
Does he have to be Brad Pitt? What if he's some old guy that's got game and he just gets with Marissa Tomei?
Aunt May's a gold digger?
Aunt May is Marissa Tomei is gorgeous in that. I mean, she's like pushing, 50? Or she is 50, right?
Oh, wow. So the wrestler's in the MCU. So, you know, after Mickey Rourke dies in The Wrestler, you know, she's a stripper. Aunt May, you know, marries Ben Parker. and they adopt Peter.
You know, it's interesting. For a split moment, I totally saw Mickey Rourke as Uncle Ben.
Oh, well, he's Whiplash.
Yeah.
It would have to be pre-plastic surgery. Mickey
Rourke, because he has
probably.
That voice. Because
as you could say, he has that face. He does.
The actor who played Uncle Ben, perfect. Like, the perfect casting.
Which actor?
I think it's Cliff Robertson, the guy who played Uncle Ben in the very first.
In the Raimis?
In the Raimis, when he just says, "With great power comes great responsibility. Remember that, Pete." And then you just see Spider-Man just...
Trying to make me cry.
I love that. I love that so much, bro. Oh, I love Spider-Man so much. Yeah, if they go, what I would want to do is, let's say if I was producing Spider-Man, I would definitely go the McFarlane route, and then integrate some of the animated series. I would mesh those two worlds together, and that's the thing with these franchises, because, you know, they're bigger than themselves. There's always somebody's interpretation that gets made, and then that inspires somebody to make their interpretation. Like with Zack Snyder with The Dark Knight Returns, with BVS. You know, and I know what I just referenced, that would be something that I would make because that's from my interpretation, but there's been so much other Spider-Man stuff that happened after that, like the MTV Spider-Man.
Yeah. I used to watch that.
Yeah.
It
was pretty cool. Yeah, for what it was. Neil Patrick Harris was Peter Parker, so that was cool.
Yeah. All right. So, do you think Spider-Man's in Venom 2? Venom 2, which is now, since we talked about it, hired Andy Serkis as the director, which is a very interesting move. And also, you know, so we got a movie coming up starring Tom Hardy and Woody Harrelson, directed by Andy Serkis. On paper, that sounds kind of good.
Yeah.
How is Sony gonna mess it up?
Well, Sony
throwing in Spider-Man. That's how they're gonna mess it up.
That's one way to ask it. I almost want to see the question be asked: how could Sony make it work?
Yeah, and that's the positive way. That's the glass half full way to go about going. So it's Tiger way.
I think if they do it right now, the ball's in their court where they can do whatever the fuck they want. Now, if they reboot Spider-Man, man, dude, Sony's got so much. That in itself is gonna be such a tidal wave to surf. If they announce that they reboot Spider-Man,
the vitriol that they're gonna get, bro, it'll be a great reckoning.
Okay, you know what? Here's how this is how they can fuck it up. This is the route that I would not go. Okay, since I like that question.
It's much easier to think about what they're gonna do.
Here's what I think how they could fuck it up. They could, let's say they scrap Tom Holland, right? Scrap Tom Holland, and they make the Morbius movie, and then they make Venom 2.
Morbius is we're just the Joker in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Let's pretend imagine Morbius for a second. He's got piercings everywhere. He fucking even jerks off on someone at some point. So that's the Morbius they're getting.
Yeah.
That'll be the rumor that happened on set, that Morbius jerked off on someone.
I could see it if they let's say they cast their Spider-Man, and you see they get their new Spider-Man and he makes a cameo in Morbius and Venom 2. To me, that would just be that's backwards for me. That'd just be backwards for me. I'm cool if Morbius. Well, what they could do, and I could see how this would work. I can see them making Morbius tied to Venom 2 and excluding Spider-Man. They could do that. They could
at least tie it together.
They could tie them together, and if, let's say, Morbius, okay, Now, let's say Morbius, shows up in Venom 2 with Eddie Brock, and then Morbius talks about, shit going on with, Peter Parker. And that would kind of be like our subtle introduction to Peter Parker, whether that's Tom Holland or not. Now, another thing that I read too, which I've heard, and I think I had a friend of mine who told me this too, who was in the business. He said that Tom Holland filmed a scene for Venom, the very first Venom, but not as Spider-Man, but as Peter Parker. He did a cameo in that.
I remember.
So, man, that just...
Well, why would they cut it, do you think?
As leverage with Marvel, or I think that's what they tried to do. They filmed it. They're like, yeah, well, let's do this.
A tragedy, probably the greatest tragedy, is Spider-Man in particular, aside from Batman, probably has the coolest rogues gallery of any superhero. And Norman Osborn is a huge figure that could not only have huge ramifications for Spider-Man, but the world in the MCU at large. If he were in it, he's the one who's funding all the bad stuff that happens. He even starts his own team of Avengers at some point,
right?
So there's just them missing out on that great library of characters, and they got this Blade movie coming out. Morbius would be a cool foe to have against Blade. He's literally a vampire, the lord of all vampires. It just sucks, money aside, it just sucks that we are going to be deprived of some really, innovative stories that we have never seen before, for sure, by this deal not working out between two studios. Why can't you just play nice?
I can totally see that. Let's say if the deal did go through, let's say they did it, I could totally see them trying to use Jared Leto with Blade.
Jared Leto and Mahershala Ali starring in a superhero movie? Bro, that is...
I'm not a Blade fan.
Here's your Oscar.
Yeah, I'm not a Blade fan, but just hearing that, Jared Leto, Mahershala Ali in Blade as Morbius and Blade, that's amazing.
Right? It's, I don't know. Hopefully a week from now, we'll find out about, them coming to terms. It's interesting, though, this really shows how dire the situation is, the fact that they had D23 this weekend, and they couldn't put it together, because surely they would have had something to announce. I mean, Tom Holland was hanging out with Robert Downey 2 days ago. They posted on Instagram.
Yeah, and that was after the news broke too. Yeah,
with holding, swapping Iron Man and Spider-Man figures, saying, "Mr. Stark, we did it."
What does that mean?
Maybe people are interpreting it. Yeah, it's obviously something to get people talking, but people are interpreting it as they made the deal. Other people are saying, well, this is our celebration of we had a great time together.
I think if a deal was made, they would have announced it today.
For sure.
That would have been like a last minute thing, and then that would have broke the internet again. But it didn't. See, until then, I mean, that sounds like a cool scoop, but until I hear the Hollywood Reporter or Variety report that it happened, then I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm already in the timeline where Sony does their thing with Tom Holland. That's another thing too. Tom Holland, it's not like he's 30 or 40 years old. He's still young. He's still 22. Like 22 years old. You can use him for another 8 years.
I know. That's why he needs to grow up surrounded by heroes. So,
but if it's as vicious as I think it could be, and if it really gets dirty, I do, because Disney was not being cool with Sony, dropping it on deadline. They were bullying them. If it came down to the death and then Sony really wanted to give them a bigger fuck you reboot that. You're like, no, fuck that. Your Spider-Man that you had with us, it's insignificant now. And we have our new Spider-Man, and we have our Venom, and we have Lord and Miller. Fuck you.
But would they have a public perception on their side? Because Marvel Cinematic Universe is universally loved. It is the shining example of the universe, of the right way to make superhero movies, right? So, people are not going to be cool with that. Imagine how people were pissed off when we didn't get Spider-Man 4 when we got Amazing Spider-Man, right?
Right.
Multiply that times a million. Now that he's been in 3 or 4 billion plus dollar grossing movies.